The Parc des Princes awaits us. Can Arsenal turn the tie around and book their place in the UEFA Champions League final? To say I'm bricking it would be an understatement. And so if you're in need of some calm and intelligent analysis, I've got just the guest with me today. Clive Palmer is here. Clive, good to see you, mate. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. I know that as we get closer to the game, I'm going to be more and more stressed and more nervous. At the minute, it's kind of ups and downs for me. One minute I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, we're going to do this. We're going to turn it around. And the next minute I'm sitting there thinking, but look at that performance of the weekend. How are we going to turn this around against, one of the top sides? You mentioned to me off air just there that you're feeling all right. Why are you feeling all right? What makes you feel comfortable right now?
I have no idea. I've felt this way for a while. I think sometimes when you reach par, then maybe you think, well, you know what, we've done really well in this competition. We finished top 3 in the league phase, had some major away day wins, had probably the greatest 2 games that I can remember in the last 20 years, and I'm okay. It doesn't mean that we are flying along without any problems, and those problems are here regardless of the result. So a result should not dictate how calm you feel. It maybe should dictate how disappointed you feel. And that disappointment can lurch into anger and can lurch into, who do I blame for this? And that's really what it's all about. I listened to some of your things you said the other day online, which I thought was really, really good about fan reaction, etc. I think I find myself analysing myself, shall we say, and analysing other and fans and how we all react. Then you have to realise it's a very personal experience, and but I suppose if we have any responsibilities, we have responsibility maybe to support the team at the time of their biggest game for many, many years. And we have a responsibility about the environment that we create. And I think that's something that I take very, very seriously. Speak your own truth, but can you do it in a way that doesn't affect people's reputations? And I think that's really important. And the words you choose for me are vitally important. So the environment around Arsenal, Harry, hasn't been great for quite a while. And is that me looking at the wrong stuff? Do I need to grow up? Or do I need to accept that is it? This is the environment that football is. And so I'm working that through at the moment. So, normal stuff for me. That I'm a thinker.
No, and you're absolutely right about the whole environment thing. I mean, I was as disappointed as anybody with the way that the second half in particular went against Bournemouth the other day. But so I kind of said it on the podcast we did on Sunday. I got home from the game. I ended up I went to a school reunion to see some friends I haven't seen for, nearly 2 decades. And so when I got home from the game, I didn't have really that much time to kind of sit and mull over it and sort of go over the sort of details of it. And normally I watch the game back the same night if I can. On this occasion, that wasn't how it worked out for me. And I remember coming home at about like 1 a.m. and sort of getting into bed and just having a little scroll through social media and seeing all sorts about the manager and people saying he should be sacked and all the rest of it. And I agree with you. Like, we've got to, everyone can express their opinion. I've got no issue with people having a different opinion to me, but I think you've got a responsibility to express it in the right way. And I think you have to think about, as you say, the environment that you're creating, because sitting there saying Mikel Arteta should be sacked is ridiculous, because it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Not today, not tomorrow, regardless of the result. It isn't going to happen. So, focus on what you can do. And that is get behind the team, support the team. And everybody sort of wants to point score, I find online. People that predicted one thing a long time ago, when it maybe comes to fruition, want to really point to that. Others will point to things that people get wrong. Ultimately, we're all wrong sometimes and we're all right sometimes. And I hate this kind of point scoring environment that we've got online at the moment, where people are calling each other out and having a go. And just get behind the team, for God's sakes. I mean, we played Bournemouth at the weekend, right? And listen, the first half I thought was okay. It was what I expected. Arsenal doing enough without being outstanding, because we would have had one eye on Wednesday night. What was your kind of overall assessment of Saturday's game?
Yeah, I did. We done our fundraiser on the podcast with this month, so I did a little show on that live from N5 pre-game, and I spoke to Jeremy, and sort of said, this team is telling us, selected, that we want to win the game. So I immediately sort of can't relax, really, because I thought we would probably do enough to edge the game. And as the game went on, we started and we looked like Arsenal again. And then we maybe left a goal or two on the table. And I don't quite like the attitude when we miss chances. I'm honest with you, there isn't enough sort of anger. It's just like, oh, we missed a chance, move on. I mean, no. We need to sort that out. The lack of second goals have been killing us this season.
Yeah.
And that's probably the number one thing that's gone wrong, and mentality around it. But I'll come on to that a little bit later. So yeah, I was watching this game thinking we're absolutely fine. And then, but what happens then? You have to emotionally and physically commit in the Premier League to get a victory. And when you reach the point of around 50 minutes, you can see Declan Rice sort of fatiguing and making it so obvious that it's time for me to come off this pitch now, because the biggest game of my life is 4 days away, right? And he was playing well. He'd done his job, but others hadn't done theirs to give us a 2-0, so we can get people off the pitch after an hour and relax a little bit, which was no doubt the intention. So we literally, a button switched that said Wednesday night's coming, and everything slowed down, concentration changed, and we started to go for the slim victory, the slim margins victory, and we didn't get it right. We get done on a long throw, get done in the corner, and it's like, hold on, I swear that header from the long throw was their first attack on target, maybe, and then suddenly it's 1-1, and 3 minutes later it's 2-1. It's like, and we're looking around, you know, and it's like we're here again. We've been in control of a game. We've dominated the territory, dominated the pass numbers, dominated the shots on target, dominated shots off target. And we find ourselves 2-1 down, looking at a bench full of kids. And 2-3 years ago, I used to look at the bench, and no disrespect to him, I used to see a player called Zach Swanson on the bench towards the end of the season. And replaced that with Jack Henry Francis this season. Not going to play for Arsenal. Great Arsenal servants. Not going to play for Arsenal Football Club. They are players that have gone through our youth system and going to go make their careers elsewhere. And we've got 3 or 4 of those on the bench again. And you ask yourself a question, how have we left ourselves in a situation where Bournemouth have more firepower to bring on than Arsenal Football Club? And these are the questions that won't go away, regardless of Wednesday night's result. Hence I'm calm, because I've already done my sort of assessment. You see what I mean? And so I'm calm that the players are going to give their absolute maximum. But I'm also, the issues that we have are clear. Regardless of the result, Harry, they're absolutely clear to me.
In terms of the reaction to it, though, do you think that the fact that Mikel, as you said, he picked a team that everybody looked at and went, yeah, we're here to win it. Do you think the fact that then we didn't win it with that team almost made it worse? In terms of managing the reaction, were we almost better off making changes and then seeing it sort of fall apart? At least then people maybe would accept it a little bit more. Whereas I think you look at the team he selected, you look at the fact that we've got this big game coming up on Wednesday night, and it almost was kind of the perfect storm in terms of creating that horrible vitriolic reaction.
Yeah, I think everyone said, let's make some changes. But let's be honest, the change is not good enough. You know, what happens towards the end of the season? Your levels go up because you get into winning time. Your levels go up. The players who are active, their levels reach a really high point. And the gap appears between those on the bench because they're not getting many minutes and they can no longer stretch to those levels, right? So there's a couple of players. If you go through some of the bench players, I think Zinchenko has been underused this year. I do think he could have been used more. And that would have kept him more active and more useful. But that hasn't happened. So I think that's a failure. That's a failure, if you ask me honestly. If we're in a Champions League quarterfinal, I think we were, and we brought on Kieran Tierney at left wing, then you know your transfer policy has failed somewhere along the line. Because if we're wanting that situation and accepting that situation, that isn't the level that we need to be at.
Yeah.
Right. So regardless of whether he's a good guy or not, you know, we all love the player. We've got to be really crisp in our analysis around these things. We know that Ethan's a developing player. Now there is chat that his body's growing, developing. It broke down in January. I'm not going to question the club for reducing his minutes when he's not as physically developed as Miles, regardless of his talent and what he's done. If he's the future of our club, we need to protect him like he is the future of our club, and not playing because we've got a few issues right now, you know, which could affect him for many years. So I'm absolutely fine with that. And then you have a situation with Raheem Sterling coming on, and Where I was sitting, I don't like to say this, where I was sitting, people were laughing at his attempt to go past people. And this is a player that I admire hugely. His career, I've been a huge fan of his. I'm afraid he's lost to the level of football that we're trying to play. He can no longer get there. And if that's our substitute or starter, we've made a mistake. And that's the truth, right? It has not worked. So, and that's where we are. And then we've got the 5 or 6 who are out, who are serious men. You know, if Jesus and Havertz, whether you like them or not, these guys have got records, international records, European records, Champions League final winning records, and they are not here for us at the moment. And that firepower, whether you think we have enough, is really, really missed significantly. And we're all clapping while Mikel Merino runs on, who's recently had another injury, was a little bit, not even top self against PSG.
Yeah,
looked okay when he came on against Bournemouth, actually. And he holds our hopes. And really, he's a player that we have discovered to play almost like an extra midfield in the front line. So we have real resource and firepower issues. And this is on us, really. I know we've been unlucky with injury, massively unlucky. Everything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong. But I don't think we have thought about the squad in a way where, I have a saying, you're as good as your forwards. And we haven't invested enough in forward areas. And I don't mean centre forward. I just mean forwards. And you can decide where they play, what system that we play. So yeah, it bothers me really. I don't know why I got the ump today. I don't normally have the ump, but it's clear, isn't it? It's clear. When Symeou came on at the weekend, how did you feel when he ran down the middle of that pitch?
Yeah,
you saw a difference, didn't you?
Yeah, 100%. And you're absolutely right. Like, we've got a real shortage in that area. And yes, you can point to the players that are absent. And if you go back across the season, there's been times where we've been without all of them, and it's had an impact for sure.
Massively.
But when you start to get people back, and I know we're still without Havertz, and I know we're still without Jesus, if we focus on that forward line. But if everybody was fit, we're 1 out of 3 away from our best forward line, you would argue.
Yeah.
Martinelli, Saka would both play most times, and then it would be a different option at centre forward. Now, I'm not trying to diminish the value of any of those players and how they can improve the front three on the whole by being involved. But for me, what's been alarming is how much the drop-off has been when we're missing 1 or 2. Now, again, you can look at the injuries and you can, bemoan the fact that we've lost those players. And there's no question about the fact that we've been unlucky, but the drop-off's been too significant. And people reacted, I think, to the Bournemouth game in such a way because this drop-off has been there for a while. This is not something that just happened on Saturday. It wasn't an off day with a kind of focus on the big semi-final. That can happen. You can take your eye off the ball. It was more for me the fact that this has been going on for a little while. And yes, the title's been done for quite some time. We've all accepted that and acknowledged that. But the drop-off has been too significant. And I think top teams, Clive, they find a way of remaining competitive even through difficulties. And we've just fallen short in that department.
Yeah, I think when you play football, it's all about the contest, right? So you have an emotional and physical commitment to a game. And there'll be 1 billion people watching our game on Wednesday night. And we'll be the biggest game watched in the world. And the players know it. And they want to play in it. It means everything to them, right? So from a professional point of view, it means everything to play in a Champions League semi-final, to be 1 goal down, and to have to win a game of football, to play in the biggest game in the world. It's bigger than anything. And they are this close. So the emotional commitment side of things and the physical commitment side of things, you could see when the game came into view, literally watch it sort of loom over everybody. And so I'm not going to criticize that too much because it's a situation we found ourselves in. But beyond that, when I look at the forward side of things, we have a set of forwards that make our system. So we have what I call system forwards. But I think we need to change slightly. We need to change to add more weapons that play within the system rather than forwards that are the system. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. And I think we got to have more weapons that we can deploy. And I think because every game is different and we haven't got enough weapons. So say, for example, we're playing Trossard and he's having a decent game, but we bring on Jesus. That's the same sort of player.
Yeah.
That offers the same things in the system. Now, if you're playing Jesus and we went to Havertz, that changed us. That was a different way of playing. And I think we desperately need a focal point centre forward to get the best out of our players, particularly for our other key players like Saka, Odegaard, etc. They need that focal point to work from. So if you have a player, and I'm going to bring up his name, for example, I'll bring up two names just because they're in the press at the moment. You bring up players like, say, Sesko, for example. I think that's a weapon that's completely different to what we have. A power running athlete that hits the ball hard. You can deploy him, and people have to change. It's a significant difference to how we play. There's a player at the weekend that I've just been looking at online in Gittins at Borussia Dortmund. If you look at him compared to, say, Martinelli, he's a stronger, faster, more powerful athlete that can really impact the backline. Semenyo, I'm not saying he's the one, but look at what he did. Look how he impacted us, how he drove. These are weapons you deploy, right? At the moment, we haven't got enough people that make people adjust. So when Saka gets the ball, they adjust to him and they say to the rest, can you do it if he can't do it? And we've not been able to get the second goal. Thanks to people are blocking out Saka. We can't get the 2 goals that we need to win games of football. So what we're doing, we're drawing them, and so we need more offensive weapons. This may sound really, really obvious, but for me, it's not just adding more system players. It's adding more devastation and real weapons to deploy against teams that are getting used to our system. I think that's a slight difference.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. It's kind of like going onto a golf course with one type of club and expecting to pull off all sorts of shots. Like, you're just not going to be able to do it because there isn't that variety to the group. And, a lot has been made of the kind of centre forward discussion, especially, throughout the season. That's been an ongoing theme. But you look at what our wingers have contributed as well. And I know Saka's been out for some time, and outside of that, he's done okay. But there isn't enough output from those guys. And then you couple that with the drop off from Martin Ødegaard as well. And all of a sudden, you just lose so much of your attacking prowess. Yeah. I do want to talk a little bit about Martin Ødegaard because I watch him, Clive, and I'm really struggling with it at the moment. And listen, I'm his biggest fan. I adore the player. I think he's superb. I think he's got so much to offer. I thought actually in the first half against Bournemouth, I started to see signs again of what Martin Ødegaard can be. The reverse passes, like the one he played for Rice's goal, for instance, perfectly weighted, perfectly angled. And you started to think he's building back up. And then the second half, I felt he sort of reverted back to, and I know this was the case for everybody, there was a drop-off across the board in the second half. But he was particularly disappointing in the second 45. What have you made of his sort of drop-off? Is there anything you can put it down to? Because normally I can look at it and I can go, okay, I might be wrong because it's just my opinion, but I can quite easily form or shape an opinion. In this case, I'm struggling to even create the basis of one around Ødegaard.
Yeah, there's 2 or 3 things that could be going wrong, right? He's had a personal life change, he's had an illness, and he's had a big injury. And for me, I don't think he should cover from any one of those because he's not been at his optimum level. So in this game, in the last game, I was really disappointed in him in the PSG game. I thought he didn't really organise us off the ball, and I thought we were in trouble off the ball. And I've always given him a little bit of a break because he does so much for us to organise us and coach us. And on the ball stuff will come back because he's really, really talented. But I didn't think he did really well off the ball. And he looked really fatigued. And when he came off, I was not surprised, And sometimes, Harry, when you go to a game, you don't mean to do it, but you do. You take a snapshot of something that you've seen. You like a Polaroid, bang. And I took a snapshot of him running back after one attack, and he looked really laboured. And I went, oh dear, I never see him like that. And honestly, mate, it really stuck with me. And my analysis post that game, which I did not like, was quite critical because I don't want to criticise somebody without being constructive. I think sometimes his first touch closes options. So when the ball comes into his feet from Saka, your first touch should take it slightly out your feet so you can see options to your left and right. Sometimes his first touch brings him back to the right so strongly that it can only go back. And if that's closed off, you have to come back out again. While you're doing that, other teams are dropping into shape. So his first touch is closing his options. And part of the things that he does really, really well is he finds options really, really quickly, particularly if they're moving. So that's a technical issue for me. When he had an opportunity at the weekend to have a shot, his first touch was perfect to have a shot. He decided against it, and it was there. He decided to manipulate to try to find a chance for somebody else. No one was moving because everyone thought he was going to shoot. Gets robbed. The crowd gets the ump. Right, so we have a problem here because he's one of the A-listers. So Saka's been out 4 months, and he's doing his best, but he's not his optimum. Martinelli's had indifferent times. He's a bit in and out, probably overused. Played brilliant in Madrid, absolutely brilliant. Both sides, excellent. Yep. So his form is still there. We know we haven't got a centre forward. Marino has saved our season. Otherwise, we were listening to Europa League music next season. That is I'm absolutely clear about. He's really saved our season. So I'm looking at Martin Ødegaard, really, because Declan Rice has gone to another stratosphere. And he's the one that's dipped away. So we've had injuries, but that one's a problem for me. And because the drop-off is so stark, I have to hold my tongue because I don't believe that 25-year-old man has lost his talent. He's just dropped out the window. It's still there. In the first half, much like you, he was really, really good, showing good things. But then he had a couple of bad touches, just a couple, and the confidence went. And that shouldn't worry him. He should be able to goldfish that away. I don't care. Next pass. And the confidence went a little bit, and so it's a worry, right? At a time when we really need him to find the 10-goal guy again, the 15-goal guy whoever he did a few years ago, I think it's, and we need some of that right now because we're lacking firepower, right? So my worry is for him is that we're doing okay without his influence. And once someone sees you may not be as important as you once were, then they will look at new ways to develop the team. So this is elite sport. It isn't kindergarten. And so if he doesn't start playing well, he knows what's coming. They'll find somebody else to play well. And if they do invest in a centre forward and Kai Havertz plays that role and does really, really well, then you will be watching. And that's the way it goes. So I hope he finds his form because we all need him to. But the most important thing, don't worry about him playing, him the captain. This is elite sport. And everyone knows the rules. Perform or you don't play.
Yeah.
Simple as
That's
that.
it. It's as simple as that. I mean, you mentioned in passing sort of one area and the way that we've sort of protected him a little bit. And maybe it's to do with his growth and his development. And I get that there's certainly that element to that. But are you a little bit surprised that he's not been used a little bit more during this difficult period Odegaard's going through? Because there's been games where I'm looking at it. PSG at home was a great example. And I know he's the captain and I know he's got a lot of influence, Martin Ødegaard, but you're looking at him and you're going, why don't you make that change just 10, even 15 minutes earlier? Now, that wouldn't be throwing Nwaneri to the wolves in terms of his sort of physicality and risking him too greatly. But I just feel like because Arteta's maybe desperate to get Ødegaard back to what we all know he can be, he's almost blinded by it to a point where he's then going, well, I'm going to leave it for as long as possible in the hope that something comes. But is that then damaging the team a little bit?
It's a tough one with things like this because we're never really clear on what drives selection. We're never really clear of the issues that players have that cover up. Classic example, if you're watching Ben White at the moment, with your own eyes, he is not fit to play football, right? So he is out there like a hero trying to cover the fact that our other two right backs are injured. So when you're watching him come off the pitch looking in terrible shape, when you watch Ben White, one of the joys I have from going to watch Arsenal, you watch the warm up sometimes, and you watch Ben White warm up. Oh my God, what an athlete he is! When he's in top form, he is unbelievable. You want to see it? We're not seeing that play. It doesn't even look the same, right? So people are judging. With Ethan, for example, having a young son that's come through these sort of things when they're growing up and they have growth spurts and they have things like shin splints and have things like Oscar slappers and things like that. I know what happens to young men as they're growing when they're 17, 18, 19. And I know that this is a time you've got to protect them. You can see that Miles has gone through that already. He's come out the other side, looks like a wardrobe. No one's worried about his body, are they? No one's worried about him. I'm worried about the other players' bodies he's trying to tackle. I'm worried about them, right? So And people are different. They are emotional. You can see the emotional difference between the two of them. You can see that one's a bit more quiet. You can see that he's just behind. That's okay. He's 18 and he stuck 10 goals in the opposition's net. And because of that, we want to see more of him. But I tend to trust the experts here. I really do. We have to calm down on this. This isn't about 2 minutes. This is about next 8, 9 years. We have to calm down on this. Yes, I'm frustrated he didn't get five more minutes or 10 more minutes here and there. I have the same frustrations. Some of that's hesitancy. You want to give someone a chance when you're the coach, you're standing there and everyone's shouting anything. Just give him 5 more minutes. He's done something good. And you wait. Okay, he's got to come on. You know what I mean? This is what happens. If you ever stood there, I've stood there. Trust me, only in front of 1,000 people, and I got it wrong many times. Right? So imagine when you got 50 million Arsenal fans around the world after you. So I personally feel I trust the manager when it comes to bringing Ethan on board. The Ødegaard situation is a story to be told. I really feel that. I really do.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. If we turn our attention a little bit towards the game then itself, coming up on Wednesday night, Arsenal traveling to Paris, a goal down and hoping to turn it around. You mentioned Ben White there. I'm hoping that Timber's absence was precautionary at the weekend. In fact, I'm pretty confident that is the case. I think he will play. But he is so important to our chances, isn't he, of going there and succeeding? Because we mentioned White, and we know there are fitness issues there, and I don't wish to overanalyze that too much. But Timber stepping into that role has been superb all season, and he's a real key component to this team now.
Yeah, I think when he's at his best, I don't think there's anybody better than him in our league. I don't, from a defensive right back perspective. His one-on-ones are excellent. I thought in the first PSG game, I thought he was really aggressive and tight. When I was watching from the stand, I thought, he's not getting a chance to get physical, but there was a few fouls there. And, Cava really did protect the ball really well, didn't he? He protected it well, played the referee well, had him in his pocket. I think he'd have learned from that. But Timber never got beat once. On the chance he got there, maybe on the goal, he got into his running quickly, attacked him, he popped it in behind him, never went past him. Vinny Jr. didn't go past him once in 2 legs. So that's what we have. We have real stability in wide areas, particularly in one-on-ones. And I think so. In Europe, I really like it when there's less aerial balls. I don't mind the 4 centre-back things when we're in the Premier League. I don't mind White and Calafiori playing. It doesn't mind me. I like that size and physicality in Europe. You've got to do one-on-ones in wide areas. You've got to protect it, look after it. And they both do that really, really well. So in LA this year, watched him in pre-season, and I thought to myself, well, he's playing this year straight away. And everyone said to me, well, who for? Because Ben White was flying then. I said, I don't care. He is playing. And he has played. And if Ben White had stayed massively fit, maybe he'd have played more at left back. And Miles would have been integrated more slowly. And that would have been what I'd expected throughout the year. But he's ended up playing a lot of games at right back and done really, really well.
Yeah, he's been phenomenal. I think we can all agree that the first sort of 25, 30 odd minutes at the Emirates were not what we had planned against PSG. They controlled us. For me, they dominated us. They pulled us left and right. They stretched us. I think they capitalized on the fact that our midfield was a little bit imbalanced without Thomas Partey. And I think they sort of drew Declan Rice out of position a few times. And, he's that kind of player. He will go and find the ball, and that's fine. But they used it to their advantage. How do you think we approach, particularly the start of this game, to ensure that doesn't happen again? What are the kind of lessons learned from watching them in that first half an hour? Because they were unreal. And people moaned about the atmosphere, Clive, in that first half an hour. I was standing there biting my nails. So I completely understand why people were feeling the way they did.
But on the atmosphere, before the game, it was the loudest I've ever heard in my whole life, without a doubt. Everyone had brought their boots and were ready to go, right? So, and then strangely enough, I'm not religious, so when the Pope minute silence came along, that sort of bamboozled everybody, right? and killed the atmosphere completely. And then the game started, and they bamboozled us, right? So they just went for us, and it was like, oh, we're here now. And okay, we'll be okay. Oh, it's in the back of our net, in off the post. Is that an own goal? What's just happened? And it was that much of a shock. And they continued to build their play, and we didn't really have an answer for it. And it took us a while to settle. I had a couple of theories. I know there were some theories out there about Odegaard moving in certain positions, etc. But for me, we did two things that stood up to me, and we went a bit longer and decided to play away from our goal because Declan Rice is not the best when it comes to manipulating the ball deep. He's an exceptional player, let's not pretend, right? But there are certain skills that you need to have when you're a deep line playmaker, which he doesn't find so easy, right? But I still thought he had a fantastic game. So we went a bit longer. We started to play the game slightly further up the pitch. That was key. And our defenders really went one-to-one, really, really tightly, and really pushed all the way in, tight, stayed with people all the way. Even if they went to the penalty box, they went all the way in. Keep your push all the way into the box. I thought we were much more aggressive, and that forced them to go longer, to get their heads down, go longer. And then we could create waves of attack and build and take momentum out of the game. And they thought they've got their goal. They started to look at the scoreboard, save their energy. Not saying they dropped away, because they didn't. They came back late in the game. But I felt we wrestled control by being more tight, more aggressive, stopping their exits. And really, when we got it, I thought we got the ball forward more directly and quicker, and then played from there. And I thought we got into the game from that perspective. So really interesting to watch that tactical battle. Really traumatizing to see a team pull us all around, because we don't normally see that very often. But hey, mate, this isn't like the County Cup in Bedfordshire. this is the Champions League semi-final. And if you're not prepared to accept the moment that you're going to get chinned every now and again, then this is the level we're trying to be at all the time, And I thought it was a really interesting game.
Yeah, it was. And I don't think I appreciated how interesting a tactical battle it was until I watched it back. I needed to kind of take the emotion out of it, knowing the result, knowing the outcome already allows you to kind of sit down. So when I watched it the next day, I was sitting there thinking, wow, like it was 1-0, but this was such a high level game of football in every single way. Really high indeed. And you mentioned sort of going that little bit longer. Obviously, Mikel Merino had to drop into midfield that night. Partey's back and should be available for Wednesday night's game. How much does that improve our chances of succeeding against them? Because look, I don't want to stick the boot in on Thomas Partey, because I think he's had an unbelievable season. I think he's had a really good Arsenal career, injuries aside.
Yeah.
But when he got booked against Real Madrid, at the time I was furious. And then I kind of allowed that anger to subside a little bit. And I sort of thought to myself, look, they've wound him up. He's away at Real Madrid. He's a former Atletico Madrid player. There's probably been something said, and he's only human, and he snapped, right? We can move on from this.
Yeah.
And then I watched that first 30 minutes against PSG, looked at our imbalance, looked at the fact that when we were trying to go long in the early stages of the game, it wasn't really working because we didn't have that presence up top as a result of having to drop Merino deeper. And I started to get annoyed with the nature of Partey's booking. Chop someone down and prevent a counter-attack, no problem. Take the yellow card, we take it on the chin. But to get booked for that was incredibly frustrating in the bigger picture. But there's no point in dwelling on that. He's back now, and he's going to be in the side. How much, in your opinion, does that enhance our chances of succeeding?
Yeah, massively. I think this is where the manager's unfortunate, right? Because you lose Jorginho at a time where you just might be able to use him. Not many people can bring him into a game to do a good hour, shall we say, at that level. So we haven't got the opportunity. So Thomas Partey is a true six, right? So people need to understand what that position is. We grew up with sixes being defensive midfielders that screened back fours. That's no longer what it is anymore. They control your play from deeper areas, and they're very much the highest touch players on the pitch now. So with the centre back. So Thomas Partey is a true six. Declan Rice is a 8-6. So he's an 8 that comes back into the 6. That cost us on that first goal, by the way, because he was the 6 that got moved out. But the 8 didn't recover in. The 8 was Mourinho, didn't recover into the zone 14 to stop the shot. Declan Rice does that all day long, every day. Did it about 50 times in the Bernabeu. Watch the game again. The way he recovers into that area to stop second chances is incredible. He does that naturally. So he's perfect for the 8-6 role, if you see what I mean. And he can play the 6. Of course he can. But Thomas Partey, even at the weekend, if you look at the goal at the weekend, he gets the ball, puts his studs on it, waits for the movement, fires it through the lines, 3 players dead. Goes to Ødegaard, one little pass, Declan Rice, angled run, goal. That is our midfielder scored that goal. And that's about balance. Roles, balance, what people are used to doing. You're getting the best from people. So if you've got an athlete like Declan Rice, do you want him standing still, flicking the ball left 5 yards and 5 yards to left? Or do you want him stormtrooping through their team? I want him stormtrooping. I don't want him standing still. There are other people that can do that and do that better than him. So we're getting the most out of him. When Partey gets the ball, Odegaard knows he's looking for the vertical pass. So he starts to move. He knows when Declan Rice gets it, he's not sure what he's going to do. So the movement stops. It's not a criticism. It's just cohesion. It's just balance. It's just how football teams are built. You can't have it perfect all the time. I thought we did really well, and we should have scored at least one goal in the home game. But that ability to just control the game, and it's not just passing, because you look at the stats, Declan Rice's passes are really good, and his pass completion is really, really good. It's about disguise. It's about timing. It's about rhythm. It's about beat. And Partey plays with a beat that the team understand, and they move to his beat. And that's a different thing. It's something that you have. It's something that Zubimendi has, I'm afraid. You just play to a rhythm, and he has that. It's a disguise to show one out to the right and flick it to the left, and suddenly 4 people are gone, and you're 1-on-1 on the back, 4v4, and you're running forward. You think, how's that happened? It happened because the players know the line height to receive the ball, when to receive the ball. They've got pictures over their shoulders. It's not just he's playing there, right? So with Partey's career at Arsenal, just talking pure football here, has been first, maybe half of it has been clouded by injury. Our ability to not have cover for him meant we forced him back a bit sooner, and he broke down again and again and again. He was too important to our team. At this moment in time, we didn't cover him appropriately. Eventually, he went for the operation on his thigh. And since he's had the operation, he has barely been injured since. And he's been one of the top 3 outfield minutes players this season. Again, it's the growth of our club, growth of our squad, to allow us to make good decisions on injury, which we weren't able to do years ago, and it cost us. For me, should he go? I think maybe it's time for a change. I do, even though I rate the player. I think it's time for a change. I think he's key to how we play. Absolutely key. When he's on form. When he's not on form, your eyes go to him, because he has such a responsibility of looking after the football. When he doesn't look after it, there's nowhere else to look. You look there, because we really do burden him, in that role.
Do you feel like something like I feel like whenever he's out of the team, even just for one game, when he comes back in, you always get that kind of that shaky performance where he, as you say, doesn't look after the ball as well. I felt that there were signs of that a little bit at the weekend, but hopefully that came out of the way, and for Wednesday it'll be fine. But he is a player that you talk about the rhythm he gives the team. He needs rhythm as well, doesn't he? He needs to play.
I defer to that, because I've heard you say that, I heard Tom say that, other people have said it. I defer to your knowledge on this one. I do think sometimes when he's not focused, he can look a bit stiff when he's not right. He can look a bit stiff on recovery. But when he's right, it's just quite clear, isn't it? I mean, I think in the Bernabeu, he had 100% pass completion. Just incredible. And but he needs that level of focus. He does require that. And interesting to see what Arsenal do with him. I think the deal they're offering him is not what been reported. I think it's like, okay, we're not going to pay you what we are paying you now, but if you want to stay for 2 years, this is the number you're going to get, right? 1 + 1. Much reduced wages, and that makes perfect sense. If he doesn't take it and he's got a better deal somewhere else, fair play to you. Go and make your money elsewhere, right? So, but Arsenal are duty bound to offer that contract. Personally, I'd like to see something different in there, just because I think the evolution is key. If you keep doing the same thing's going to happen. So I'd like to see something different there.
Yeah, I'm open to the idea of a change there as well. You know what it is that scares me about it is it's not so much that we can't replace any one individual. It's that Jorginho's going, and then if you lose Partey as well, and you're only bringing Zubimendi in, there feels like there's a hole there, and you need to do something else and something more. And I think about it as a collective, is the combination of Zubimendi and whoever we else bring in as strong as Jorginho and Partey in all facets of the game, not just what they can do on the pitch, but experience, being leaders, all of those things. I think that's where Arsenal are maybe giving themselves more work to do going into the summer. And listen, by all accounts, it looks like they're planning on having a big summer and a really, really sort of proactive one. And if that's the case, maybe they're looking at the Partey situation and think, well, that's not an issue because we're ready to go big. We're ready to do what's necessary. But if you're going to let him and Jorginho go and then kind of half-ass the replacement, then that's where I will start to worry, because we all know we need a centre forward. We would all argue that we maybe need another wide forward as well. We could probably need
an
another
attacking midfielder
and an attacking midfielder.
One defender and a visitor, and we all know we need to. I'm part of any sort of high performance team model. If you look at them, there's a section there called renewal. You heard me say it before, Harry. We need to renew this squad.
Yeah,
but that's okay. This is where we are in the cycle. We need to renew this squad. There'll be some players going out, some big numbered players. Tierney, Zinchenko, Partey, Jorginho. These are big numbered players. Maybe Kiwior will go just so he can have a career, because he deserves one, and so things are going to change in this area. So, obviously Jesus is inactive. Are we going to see Trossard leave potentially just so we can add some younger talent in there? It's time for renewal. And if you're the manager that people are getting a little bit bored of, you're not as sexy as Iraola, you're not as sexy as other guys coming in like Slot. We know your system now. We know what you're about. You haven't won anything, mate. You need to do one. If you're him, if you're the club and you've got a new sporting director in, I would renew fundamental areas of the squad. I would reshape. I wouldn't take the floor out. I'd add to the ceiling, right? I'd reshape the squad, show the key players that we're serious, and develop on top of this. There's nothing to be worried about. We are here. It's been a bit of a flat year. We've taken a step back in the league, but we are here about to look forward to the biggest games of our recent lives. We are not the dog and duck. Don't let people convince you that we are. If we do the right things on top of this group, we're going to move forward at a pace. And look at the ages of our key people. They are not old, right? So we got to stay calm and not panic and make good recruitment people decisions. That's what we got to focus on.
I think that's perfectly put, and the perfect way to wrap up as well, Clive. Thank you so much, as always, for your time, mate. It's an absolute pleasure talking football with you on whatever platform it is. Let people know.
Serious, Harry. Sorry, mate. But
I love it.
It's a serious time. It's a serious time. And can I say one last thing before I go?
Go for it.
One last thing. Something that Tim said to me. Tim Stillman said something to me the other day, and it's really stuck in my head. He said, we talk about the women's team a lot and we have a lot of chat on that. He said, ask the women's team and Chelsea's women's team are really, really close. But Chelsea keep winning most of the trophies. And what is that? It's something that's in my mind. It's really coming out now. We have to ask ourselves about our mentality as a football team. And is it strong enough to have multi-pronged approach on the biggest trophies? And we're Arsenal people and we support this club with all our hearts. And we can't answer that question in the positive. We are not strong enough mentally yet to manage the two-pronged attack. And we need to get that way. We need to think about, why are these details going against us? What can we do to make ourselves more mentally robust? What can we do to change our mentality so we can be at the top table? Because we do not want to be burdened with the tag of being the bridesmaids. So we need a complete change in focus. And that means you have to accept you have a problem. It doesn't mean you have to fire people. That's just dumb, right? So how about people resolve things themselves and improve and get better, And these are things we have to really accept and take on board as individuals, within the club, the coaching staff, the players. What more can I add to my game? When Saka gets the back post header and he's the best player in our club, can he get that back post header in? What does he need to do to work on it? I'm sure he will be working on it. These are things that make the difference. These are things that take the margins our way. That's the biggest lesson. So this is why I'm calm, because for me, this is clear. It's so obvious. It's so obvious what we need to do next. And there are people way smarter than me, no doubt, already working on that, right? So, yeah, that's my last thing I want to say. Mentality has to be better, regardless of Wednesday night. We have to be better so we can really win these big trophies.
Yeah, completely agree. And again, brilliantly put. Clive, again, thank you so much, mate, for joining me. Honestly, really, really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man and very much in demand when it comes to Arsenal chat. What are you going to be up to over the next couple of days? Let people know how they can follow you and keep up to.
Yeah, well, Elliot keeps me trapped in the Arsenal vision, doesn't he? Right, so he's got me there. and so yeah, we got a rewatch coming up of the PSG game, and we're going to do a bit of a preview on that. And yeah, that's what I love. I'm very lucky to have the platform, hey, to just talk as I want, right? I'm very fortunate. So might do a bit of you on Talk Sports soon. So look out for that.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. Nice one, Clive. Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Don't forget to leave a like if you're watching the video, subscribe if you're on YouTube, if you're listening on audio, leave us a review and give Clive a follow. I'll leave his handle in the description below. Until the next one, take care of yourselves and try not to bite off all your fingernails in the build up to Wednesday night's game.